stand for and what is central. Now, in terms of Paul, my disappointment is with all this anger of the progressives, and now we're attacking Obama left and right. What the hell is a positive strategy for what progressives can do? I say you both agree that he is not what he said he was. You both agree he'd like to be successful, and John, you said he wants to get something done. So my question for Paul is, given who he is in terms of what you both saying, how can you use that to accomplish something? So that's my question for
Okay,
Paul.
John, would you like to start? And then Paul.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll go first. I think Obama was actually pretty honest about who he was in most of his rhetoric, and that's something that upset a lot of the left, that his rhetoric was not like John Edwards, who I regarded as a phony. He was very upfront that he likes to engage in this compromise. He likes to bring people together. He's used that rhetoric a lot, and he's really governed by that. As for being a centrist, I like to call myself a centrist as a way of sort of moving the politics to the left, to where I am, and saying I'm at the center, and that's where political politics is. It may be a little disingenuous, but it's something I like to imagine is the reality.
Actually, I'm actually sort of happy about what's going on, because what we're having right now, and we're just in the last month or so, I said, we're getting kind of a significant progressive backlash. And we're getting a lot of the folks who did have unrealistic expectations getting to clarify the nature of what this presidency is actually about and not standing down, particularly for millennials. And this is one reason, believe it or not, my son got me, and it would have been true if it was Hillary or if it had been Edwards, and when crunch time came in Iowa, which was contested, was technically a contested state, though I personally in my precinct voted for Ralph Nader, knocked on doors and got in a bunch of absentee ballots for Obama. Absolutely essential for millennials, kids 18 to 29 years old, to understand that the corporate managed democracy is a bipartisan system. That realization in the early 60s drove part of the New Left, and it was very critical. This notion is going to get this kind of sense that, you know, in a lot of ways, things still suck, even though a charismatic Democrat is in office, is kind of what happened with the transition from an Eisenhower to JFK. And that's an important moment. I think that where we're at right now is a very teachable moment with regard to what racism is and the difference between us being not prejudiced enough to vote for a black president. Of course, many, a horrifying portion of us weren't prejudiced enough to vote against, but, you know, and really tackling institutional racism and getting down to the nitty-gritty of what the, and Obama knows a lot about that institutional racism. Disappointed expectations, but actually, if you buy the book, and I hope you do, the publisher made me.
It's the United States, always commercial, right?
They anticipated you, and so it's right. And so the whole last chapter, they made me do it. I'm glad they did it, and I got a full-on, in-your-face. If we'd had more time, I'd ask John if he agreed with it. Left progressive agenda.
I agree with half of it.
Okay.
So it's there, actually. But you gotta buy the book to know about it.
Yeah, this kind of is a continuation
Quickly.
of this thought. The point was made that one of Obama's strengths is now that the playing field is a little more open for dissent and discussion. And we've heard a great debate about the nature of electability versus the corruption of the system. And these are compelling facts, and people don't think in facts, they think in frames. So how would either of you frame this now that we have an opportunity for dissent and for debate and for public discourse? Do you have a frame that you would maybe try to push the public in so that we can actually accept these?
May I have your attention, please? The time is now 8:30. The library will be closing in 30 minutes. At this time, internet service has ended for the day. Library card registration has also ended. Thank you.
And we have about 10 minutes or so left, so please keep your answers short.
I have to say, I know frames are important, that George Lakoff and all that. I just hate talking about it. I have no good answer about frames. Maybe Paul does. What's your answer?
Well, you know, it's not particularly original. I quote Chomsky and I quote Howard Zinn repeatedly in this, but progressive change never takes place in a vacuum of significant popular rebellion. You know, Chomsky said in '04, before the Kerry-Bush election, and I agreed with him, that, you know, sensible choices have to be made during elections. You don't want lunatics in the White House. One of the things I was willing to knock on doors for Obama was at the end, crunch time, was that I really was convinced that McCain was a loose cannon. He was a truly dangerous individual. And I'm not even talking about his vice presidential pick, who would have been more than the usual heartbeat away from the presidency, incidentally. And it strikes me as some sort of proto-fascist. But that's just one part of politics, and we have been bamboozled, not just by Barack, but by John Edwards, even by Ralph Nader, into a definition of politics as being about these mass-marketed, candidate-centered extravaganzas every 4 years. We have to stop going to sleep once these things are over. I do see some of the space being cleared that you're talking about, but I also see people being put to sleep. And maybe I'm in such an Obama crazy town.
How would you wake them up?
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I signed up to Progressives for Obama, but I agree with Glenn Ford. My question is about hostility. You talk about people being asleep. When you speak to people, do you encounter among liberal, progressive, there's a lot of hostility
Towards what?
towards what you're saying about Obama?
At first, much less so. Things have started to change. It's really kind of interesting, and you're seeing, I'm in Obama crazy town. There's probably a lot of campus towns, but particularly the Big Ten campus town in the state of Iowa, where the presidential obsession is more advanced than anywhere with the possible exception of New Hampshire. And we're starting to see all these stickers scraped off. It's really funny. You see the food go out. Oftentimes, it's about a lot of issues. I wanted to be about, the bailouts and the Employee Free Choice Act. That's just, or Iraq or the Afghanistan. Oftentimes, it's about the civil liberties stuff. In a middle-class progressive town, people take a lot of that ACLU stuff real seriously, and they're really pissed off about the embrace of the Bush counterterrorism agenda. And also, a lot of the gay population is starting to feel really ticked off and feeling that they're not listened to at all. And then the healthcare thing is really playing badly. So yeah, I am starting to see.
John, do you have a response?
No, not really, it's kicking in.
I am seeing anger.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the premise that you brought up first, that about the Obama presidency, that you both agree rode in on a wave of progressive sentiment, anti-war sentiment, is that it creates more space to develop progressive movements. And Mr. Street believes that it may dampen it by soaking up all of those energies. And if loyalty to the man in the office and the president is put above advancing the policies that we really believe in, I think that's a real danger. So my question to you would be, if we had a Republican president, a John McCain or a George Bush, who was for an Employee Free Choice Act, who was for national health care, who wanted immediate withdrawal from Iraq, and to take back, to claw back all the dollars from Goldman Sachs and the Wall Street thieves, what do you think the Republican base would do to that president?
Well,
And should that be instructive to how we view this presidency?
they would be destroyed. I mean, even John McCain was really lucky to survive in the Republican Party, someone who's a staunch conservative. And you have to, thinking about Rush Limbaugh as I have recently, you have to remember, Rush Limbaugh is the most, is the biggest stuck up to the Republican establishment that there is. But even Rush Limbaugh, would go after the Republicans and George W. Bush on immigration, on Harriet Miers, on all sorts of things when they weren't bowing to the right wing of the party. And so, that's something that, even though there was enormous unquestioned loyalty on the right to a lot of what Bush was doing, there was also, from the far right wing, a constant pressure and push on Bush to move to the right and to stop anyone who got in his way. So.
It's Bob Cutler did a very interesting book in '08, and the last third of it was absolutely useful. It had all kinds of progressive economic things like employee free choice. And Bob Cutler, by the way, is a left liberal at the American Prospect, thought Obama should take this mishmash, this so-called public option, and just stuff that and try and have some economic successes and then come back after that with single payer. I think Cutler was right about that. The book is titled Obama's Challenge. And it's all about how Obama could be this guy right here on the wall, or maybe FDR, and the greatness of character and presidential history, greatness, and so on and so on and so on. And the title is completely wrong. It's our challenge. It's not Obama's challenge. The only reason FDR started being behind the things he did